Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ohio Huntsman Podcast. So this week, we're doing 5 laws that you might actually be breaking, not knowing that you're breaking a law. So we went, these are either laws that we've had some experience with, or, we've heard from people. We kind of reviewed the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Administrative Code, found a couple that we didn't know were laws, things that we thought might be helpful that, we could potentially see people breaking unknowingly. And so we picked out 5. There's more. We might do another one of these in the future. But we found 5 that we think are going to be good, and we wanted to share them on the show today. So I'm going to kick it off. It is illegal to have shotgun or rifle ammunition on you while you're out muzzleloader hunting. So you might say, well, why would you have either of those? But I could easily see, you got some shotgun slugs in your pocket from deer season or the extended gun season. You use the same blaze orange jacket for muzzleloading, didn't think about it, threw your jacket on, and now you've got shotgun shells in your pocket. And if you were to get stopped, you're breaking a law. Or before we started recording, Jeff brought up another one. Say you go out squirrel hunting and you got a pocket full of 22 shells, and you forget one or you miss one because they're small. Now you're out with your muzzleloader and you're breaking the law.
Right.
So, you could get a ticket for that. And until we did this research, I didn't know that was illegal. I'm assuming, the essence of that is not to bust a squirrel hunter that forgot a 22 shell in his pocket, but it doesn't mean that it's not illegal. Right. I'm sure the essence has something more to do with, they think you're doing something more insidious, I guess, in that you're trying to use a rifle or shotgun during muzzleloader. And if why would you have the ammunition on you if you weren't trying to use one of those weapons during a muzzleloader season?
Right. I think that's definitely the intention.
Yeah. Not to bust squirrel hunters or somebody that forgot a shotgun slug in his pocket, from gun season, but wanted to call attention to it. So,
and would that, I'm assuming that law would also apply to any type of backpack or anything that you would carry. I know it's not uncommon for people to carry the same pack for every time they're in the woods.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I didn't write down the specific wording of the law. One thing I forgot to mention is in our show notes, we're going to have the actual sub-number of the code where you can find these if you want to read the specifics of them, the specific wording of them. We didn't want to get too legalistic in this, but if you go to the show notes, we'll have all the details there and you can go and read the specifics of it. But to get back to your question, I'm assuming yes, that if it's in your pack, it's still considered on your person. You're in possession of it.
Yeah, I believe the word was either carry or possess.
Right.
Shotgun or rifle ammunition. So having it in your bag would satisfy both of those criteria.
Right.
And I believe kind of along those same lines, it's a different portion of it, but I'm sure it's probably close to the same area if you were to look it up. Kind of going the other way, you are not permitted to possess or carry any type of like a shot shell while you're shotgun hunting for deer. So if you have like your turkey ammo in your pack, or
I think they have a stipulation on like it can't be any smaller than a certain size shot, right? There's something in there. I remember reading something about that.
But yeah, I know that's another common one you could run into.
I think it's smaller. It can't be, it can't be larger than number 4 shot. So if you have 7 shot like squirrel ammo, you're fine. But if you have something larger than 4 shot, because what they're trying to prevent is from you using buckshot. I believe you can't hunt with any shot shell larger than 4 shot.
Okay. Well, like I said, we'll have links to this stuff where you guys can go and read it. Right. The other thing I should mention, we're not lawyers. This isn't legal advice. We're just talking about laws that we read in the revised code, the Ohio Revised Code. Wanted to bring attention to them, so we're not giving any kind of legal advice here. So just kind of put that disclaimer out there. So Jake, why don't you give us our next one?
All right, the next one, it's a short one straight out of the revised code, so I'll actually read it word for word. It shall be unlawful for any person to hunt with or carry a printed deer permit or antlerless deer permit of another. So that sounds easy enough.
Yeah, deer permit, they're talking about deer tag.
Deer tags.
Your tag.
Right. So that sounds easy enough. Sounds like kind of like common sense. You can't use someone else's tag for your deer.
Right.
However, when we got to talking about it and kind of thinking about it, people who may be breaking this law unintentionally or, breaking it without knowing it or realizing it would be anyone who's taking a child with them hunting. It's youth season. It's your, 8-year-old son or daughter's first time out in the woods. And in the mix of trying to get everything together, because we know how that is, it's a big day, it's a big thing. You just make sure you have all the legal paperwork in your bag or in your pocket.
Right.
You have the tags, the licenses, all that for you and your son or daughter in your pocket, in your backpack, whatever it is. You're breaking the law.
Yep.
And it's a big responsibility for, some of these younger deer hunters. I see all the time on Facebook 6-year-olds. It's a big responsibility to have this piece of paper on you.
Yeah.
It's they can barely carry themselves with their hunting clothes. So just having one extra thing to lose is
right.
I mean,
maybe
big
that's responsibility.
Maybe that's a good metric. And like, if your kid's not responsible enough to keep track of their tag, maybe they're not ready. I don't know. That you can go round and round about how young is too young, or how old is old enough, or but maybe just something.
That's a different topic.
Something to keep in mind.
Right.
You would think that somebody wouldn't really enforce that in that situation, but I do remember seeing somebody put a video on Facebook about, I just got a ticket, and it was that father-son situation. He had his kid's tag in his pocket, and I think they wrote him a ticket for it. So
like you said, I'm sure that's not the essence of the law.
No, that's not why they wrote the law. Like, we got to stop dads from carrying their kids' tags. That's that's not what they intended. But
however, that is the easiest way to break that law unintentionally that we could kind of come up with through our conversation.
Right. All right. So, Jeff, our third one.
All right. Our third one, this is one that I had no clue about. I kind of knew that perhaps it would be unethical in some situations, but I had no clue that there's actually a law preventing. It is illegal to harvest a deer in water.
Right, and that is basically what it says. It's not like while swimming in water, it just says in water.
Right. So the way I understand that is if that deer is standing in a puddle, it is illegal to shoot it.
I mean, technically the way that's written now,
I'm sure it was designed to prevent you from shooting swimming deer.
Yeah.
But that's not the way that it
the law is written it's very short, very concise. It says it shall be unlawful to harvest a deer in water.
And I know a lot of people that hunt
over creeks, a creek crossing or something,
at creek crossings, and technically you have to wait for that deer to cross that creek,
or in the situation where you have like a bottom where it's swampy.
Right. People that are chasing those swamp donkeys.
Right. The old proverbial swamp donkey. That deer lives his whole life in water.
Right.
So anytime that deer's on its feet,
they know that law. They're smart.
They must. Yeah. Is it in water? Is it? I don't know.
I suspect that this had some origins in, because I remember seeing something about like the native peoples of Alaska are allowed, like they're the only people that are allowed to kill caribou while they're swimming.
I believe I've heard that or seen that.
And so that's one of their methods. Is like they'll just run a boat up to them basically and
shoot them in the head or whatever.
And drag them into the boat, drag them to shore or something like that. I suspect it had some origins in something like that. An animal that's swimming is kind of in a vulnerable state. It wasn't intended to, that deer was standing in a puddle. Come over here, buddy. I got to write you a ticket. That's not what they intended.
That deer.
Or standing in ankle deep water in a creek, even. Just if they're in a vulnerable state while swimming, I suspect that's the intent of that law. But there again,
Right.
one that you could break unknowingly, and I would venture to guess many people have broken it and didn't know.
I would guess that hundreds of people break that law
Every
year.
season,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a common place to. I mean, people all the time. You set up on a creek crossing
Right.
My words mixed there.
Or hunt in a swamp.
Right. You know, I mean, the creek crossing is like the big thing. It's pinch points.
Right.
Well, you find the spot in the creek that's the lowest. That's where the deer are going to cross.
Yep.
So everyone hunts that. Well, then it works out perfectly to your plan, and that deer's crossing the creek
Right.
where you thought it was, and
Right.
you're 20 yards away, and you put an arrow in it before it turns around and goes the other way.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden you're
a criminal.
right. So yeah, that's definitely one that, like I said, not the essence of the law, I'm sure. However, the law is what it is. And
Right.
like I said, it's very vaguely written. It's very short and concise, and it just says you cannot hunt a deer in water.
In water. Yep. All right, so that was 3. Jake, why don't you give us number 4?
All right, number 4 is actually one that we not personally had problems with, but we know someone who has down at our hunting cabin down in southern Ohio. Had issues that unknowingly that is illegal to skin a deer or remove its head prior to completing the game check process.
Which that's another one that you would think, well, duh, why would
Right.
you ever do that, right?
However, down at our cabin down in southern Ohio, in that area, there is no cell service.
Right.
There's no internet for the most part. I mean, you'd have to have some sort of a satellite internet. So maybe some of the locals down there do have internet access. But for the most part, there's no cell service. You have to go to a special spot up on top of the hill
Right,
just to
where
get
you
cell
can get
service.
signal, yeah.
Right. So, in the case that we know specifically where this person got in trouble, you know, deer season's been warm, I don't know, probably the last 10 years it seems. Shotgun season has been warm weather. And the way the law is written is that the deer has to be checked, game checked, by, I believe it's midnight of the night of the day you harvested, or is it noon the next day? I don't remember.
I think it's noon.
Noon the
Yeah,
next
the
day.
next day,
Noon
yeah.
the next day. So in this case, person harvested the deer towards the evening. It's not going to get below 60 degrees, you know, whatever, 70 degrees. I don't remember the specifics. But it's like, we got to get this deer skinned, cut, and quartered, and in coolers.
Get it on ice.
Get it on ice, and we'll deal with checking it in tomorrow. Or, you know,
Or
after
drive up
dinner,
the hill
just-
later tonight.
Right,
Yeah,
after
just
dinner.
after, yeah.
We'll drive up the hill.
While there's
And-
still light in
right.
the sky, we gotta
We got to take care of this. So that's what had happened. And the game warden came by and said, I need to see the tags for this deer.
Right.
And-
And assumed everything was on
Right,
the up and up.
right,
Gave
this-
him the
right.
temporary tag.
Right.
And actually ended up getting a ticket out of that situation. So,
And in this case, because, like I said, it was someone that we know that hunts down there, so we know specifically, but the fine associated with that was a pretty hefty one. I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was $250, something like that. It wasn't
yeah,
like it was
I don't
a
remember.
slap on the wrist, so to speak. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
pretty substantial fine for a simple oversight, you know.
Yep.
And you know, I could, like you said, it's, yeah, obviously you can't cut up a deer before you check it in, or, you know, I mean, it kind of makes sense when you break it down, but it also makes sense to do it the way this person did it.
Right.
You know, they had no ill intentions or ill will. They fully planned on checking the deer in. They were not trying to be sneaky or anything. It's just
Yeah.
the easiest thing for them was to get that deer cool down on ice so the meat doesn't spoil before they could get up to the one spot in the county, so to speak, or whatever,
Right.
that has cell service.
Another important thing to know is that if a law isn't in the regs book, a lot of people think if it's not in the regs book, it's not a law.
Right. It's
which
not illegal.
That
yeah.
is absolutely not true, because that is nowhere in the regs book that you can't break down, you know, skin. At least at the time, it wasn't. It may be in there now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah,
But
I guess we
at
probably
the time,
should've-
we checked the regs book over, and it's not there.
Right. We probably should have, I guess, started with that. All of these hunting laws are in the Ohio Revised Code. That is the actual Bible of hunting laws.
Right.
The regs book, a lot of people think the regs book is the Bible, and the regs book is fairly thorough and touches on the big ones.
The big ones, yep.
However, there are things that don't make the regs book that specifically, like this one is one, that you can get yourself in trouble for.
Yep. So, Jeff, that was number 4, right? This will be number 5. So
Yep.
what's
Yep.
number 5?
Number 5. And this one is one that I know a lot of people break. It is in the regs book, but a lot of people don't think about it. And that is that during deer gun season, it is illegal to load your gun until legal shooting light, until half an hour before sunrise. And it's illegal to leave your gun loaded after legal shooting light, half an hour after sunset.
All right, so you can't get out of your truck, step off the road or whatever, and load your gun and walk up into the woods in the dark. You've got to wait until legal shooting hour to load your gun.
Right.
Same thing with coming out, right? Like you said, your gun, if you sit till the last bit of legal shooting light, at that point you've got to then unload your gun. You can't walk back with your gun loaded. That's an easy one to forget that, oh yeah, I forgot to take the shells out of my gun.
Right. And kind of where this kind of can catch people is, if you're sitting at a field edge and you're waiting for legal shooting light and, you can see the deer in the field.
Right.
You have to wait until legal shooting light, then load your gun.
Right.
And hope that noise doesn't scare the deer away.
Yep.
Well, and the big one that gets me, and I guarantee 99.9% of people that hunt muzzleloader season, in the evening, you need to discharge your muzzleloader prior to leaving the woods a half hour.
I don't believe so. I think you just need to take the primer
off.
I think it's considered unloaded.
Okay.
At
Yeah,
that
because
point.
you can transport it as long as you don't have the primer on
it. Okay.
It's considered an unloaded weapon.
Then that makes me feel better because I know I would have broken that law.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess and that would be kind of dangerous too because you'd have all these people at last light
Blouching their guns off.
off.
just firing their guns off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
So,
anyhow, back to that. Yeah, it's definitely something that I know for a fact that people load those guns before because of the noise part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was shotgun. Ohio was a shotgun-only state for a long time.
yeah.
And loading a shotgun is not a quiet process.
Right.
You're racking shells, and people don't want to do that.
Yeah. And there again, I kind of doubt the intention of the law was to stop people from loading their guns as they're walking to their stand. It was like to stop people from shooting deer at night in the middle of the night, right?
Right.
But the way the law is written,
Well, and also to get rid of that temptation of, if you're walking in and you jump a deer, if your gun's already loaded, you're tempted to shoot at night.
right? Or you hear something
Right. You're
cracking
tempted.
through the brush next to you. Yeah, that's true.
Where if your gun's not loaded,
Right.
it kind of takes that temptation away.
That's true. That's probably a safety thing. Shouldn't be walking around in the dark with a loaded gun.
Right.
That's probably a good point. So those are our 5, and then we're going to give you a bonus. We're going to give you a bonus one because we couldn't decide on just 5. This last one is a big one. We could probably do a little sub episode on this one by itself. So if people are interested, let us know. If you want us to talk more about this, let us know, and we can do a sort of follow-up episode on this. But basically, it's kind of hard to distill this one down. But essentially, any part of a deer, the meat, the taxidermy, any of that stuff needs to have your permanent tag number or some form of official validated seal of ownership, and they go in the law, they go in to define what those are. It could be a salvage tag for a roadkill deer or whatever, but you need to keep your tag number accessible with your meat. It has to be attached to your taxidermy. It has to be, the big one is like if you find a dead deer in the woods and you take the skull or something, you technically need to call the game warden and have them come give you a salvage tag or something to make that, so that you can legally take possession of that
Right.
part of a deer, the
Right.
skull, the antlers. The
And
only thing
that's a big one too, because I mean, deadheads as they're called.
right.
You're walking
People
through
pick
the
them up
woods
all the time.
All the time. You're turkey
Right.
hunting in the spring, and you come
Right.
across deadheads, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to take that.
Right. The only thing that you're legally allowed to have the only part of a deer that you're legally allowed to have without a tag number or some sort of valid certificate of ownership are naturally shed antlers. Like I said, this one has, the main part and then tons of subparts. We'll again link to this so that you guys can read through it. But, if you're say you're just doing a skull cap and you're doing it yourself, like you need to have your tag number, and I think it's your confirmation number.
right?
It's not just your purchase tag number.
Right.
Written on that, and they even specify like it needs to be in permanent ink. It's got to be kept with it, and I'm assuming the reason that there's parts and subparts, and this is such a big one, it is for the poaching aspect. If you go into somebody's house and they got a bunch of taxidermy and or skulls, and they don't have any tag numbers to sort of say, yeah, I harvested that animal legally, now there's a problem. Right. It's not to bust the guy that's got a freezer full of deer meat and he doesn't know where his tag is, or I'm assuming that's not the essence of the law, but technically you need to keep all that stuff so that you're on the up and up. If somebody were to ask you, you need to be able to show your tag number.
Right. I believe the way the law reads is you need to be in possession and be able to present that game check verification number until the entire deer is consumed.
Right.
So if you have a package of ground in the back of your freezer and the game warden has some other reason to be at your house, because they're not going to come just for that, obviously, but and they come across that, add that to the list.
Right. That's right. That would be where you would get busted in that sense of the law. After reading that one for I don't know how many years now I've been doing it, but I actually just keep an Excel sheet with my tag number, if it was antlered or antlerless, date and time of heart, basically the information that you would put on your tag. And I just keep an Excel sheet of all that stuff so that I don't have to keep paper tags and go, oh, I have these 3 tags from last season or this,
Yeah, I'm not that
nerdy.
Nerdy, yeah. I just have a piece of notebook paper that I write the tag numbers on and just keep it in a cupboard in my kitchen.
What happens if your house burns down?
Well, the meat's going to burn too then, and it doesn't matter.
Good point. You don't really need a redundant system at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have redundancy on where your meat's at? Do you store it at different locations so you don't lose it all if your house burns?
No, but
you might want to work on that.
Probably a good idea.
Well, but 2 freezers, right?
I'm rocking 3.
If one freezer goes down, you don't lose everything.
Right. I have 3 freezers with deer meat in it.
I have 2. You only have 1?
We keep everything in the deep freeze. In the chest freezer, we then transfer things to the fridge freezer as we're getting ready to use it. So it's not
fair enough.
Really like it's spread between both.
Right. Okay.
Although I don't know. I might need to get another freezer or a bigger. Maybe I'll just get another one so I can have a redundant system.
There
I
you
can
go.
have some safety built in.
Right.
Because we do buy some beef, and so if I get one big deer and the beef, our freezer's pretty full. It's a smaller chest freezer. I might need to invest in another one because it's not enough to get us through. We could live on venison if I shot 2 big deer.
Right.
We wouldn't need the beef. Although sometimes a beefsteak is nice.
Right.
But
Right. My problem is having babies. My wife's breast milk takes up a freezer.
Oh.
So that complicates my deer storage.
We're getting really far down rabbit holes here.
I think
I
we're
mean,
going to
how'd we
sleep
get
on
on-
the couch after she
Yeah.
hears this.
Yeah.
Probably. But no, that's why we got our third freezer. It's actually a combo. See, this is how I convinced my wife to let me get this. It's actually my kegerator
Oh.
has a freezer on top. And she's like, "Oh, you don't need that kegerator." And I'm like, "But we do need another freezer."
That's smart thinking.
Right. So we use that freezer. That's on top of my keg. It's a full-size fridge with a freezer on top.
Yeah.
The fridge part is a kegerator. Shameless plug. Local Harvest Brewing Company.
Check them out.
Check them out. So there's homebrew in there. And then on top, I got that stuff full of venison. And then the other 2 chest freezers are a combination of some venison, some other frozen stuff, and then breast milk for the baby. So
Okay. Well, those are our 5 laws that you might not know you're breaking.
And a bonus.
And a bonus. So you got more for your money.
Right. Got 6 for the price of 5.
Right. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
it is.
So we appreciate everybody listening. Please give us a review on iTunes. Leave us feedback. Let us know what you want to hear. If you like what you're hearing, what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of. Check us out on Facebook at Ohio Huntsman, Instagram at Ohio Huntsman Podcast. And again, just thanks for listening.